Hello everyone, my name is Andrew and welcome back to the Property Hustler Show. Today, Skylar and I are going to be discussing some of the significant changes that are happening in Canada. With the elections coming up, Trudeau just came out with the new budget, some adjustments that are being made, and his main goal is to make it easier for Canadians to get into homes. We're going to talk about that, how it might affect you, and whether or not it's actually going to work. All right, Skylar, so what are we seeing?
The most headline-grabbing announcement was stretching your mortgage from 25 to 30 years for first-time home buyers.
Yeah.
Okay, that was a big article. You read a little deeper in the article, okay? It has to be on new homes.
Oh, new construction.
New construction. All right? We have a lot of investors that invest in new construction. Do you know what happens when you buy new construction?
What?
It's not a typical mortgage.
Okay, what is it?
Because the builder needs to raise capital to finish the development, whether or not that's single-family houses, row houses, or a condo building.
Okay.
All the deposit structures vary, right? Because you need to lock your spot for this house that's going to be ready in 2 years. And they usually go 5% on signing, 5% in 30 days, the other 10% due before closing.
Yeah.
Maybe 5 days and 180 days, and then the other 365 days from signing. So you're at 20% down.
Okay.
And then the builder has that capital to finish the development. So there is no way that you can buy a new home in Canada with only 5% down.
Okay, hold on, because I am wondering about that. Can you get CMHC insured mortgages 5% down if you're buying a new construction build?
Sure, as long as it's under $1 million.
Okay, so that means that even though you may make larger deposits, depending on what deposit structure the builder has, you can still get a mortgage with 5% down, which means you'll get money back.
Yes, and you get a 30-year mortgage.
Yeah, but in order to hold the property, you may be putting more than 5% down.
Correct.
Got it. Okay, I understand. I mean, that doesn't sound too bad technically, but it definitely is like a pretty penny out of pocket in order to reserve a spot.
But then how is the builder going to finish development if you're only putting 5% down? It's impossible.
Well, no, because you're not putting 5% down from the get-go, right? You're putting down maybe 20%, but you're going to get the 15% back if you go through CMHC mortgage.
They are not saying that any rebate is going to happen like what you just said.
No, but the bank is going to give you back the money. So if you... Isn't that it?
No, nothing has been announced that the bank's going to give you a rebate like that. That if you put up to 20%, then the bank's going to refund you 15%.
No, but that's how CMHC mortgage would work.
Not with new homes, right?
So that's what I'm saying. So for new homes, can you not get a 5% down mortgage through CMHC?
You could.
Yes.
But the builders won't allow that. You go to Mattamy Homes, you go to Lausanne Homes.
Yeah.
Right? Doesn't matter any new condo that's built downtown Hamilton, downtown Toronto.
Okay.
There's a deposit structure.
Yes,
of
but
20%.
Yes, but when you actually go to get a mortgage, the money gets circulated again. So I assume that you'll get that 15% back if you're doing a 5% down.
That would be a new thing to me, and they have not mentioned anything like that.
Okay. All right.
How would that help you buy a house then? Even if we are saying what you're saying is possible.
Yeah.
That we're doing a rebate of 15%, which is a massive rebate. Now, would that come in a check from CMHC in the mail? Would that be deposited in your bank account?
It comes back through
would
the
that
lawyer.
come in a tax rebate?
When you do the stuff through the lawyer, I'm pretty sure that's when it comes back.
How would that help you buy a house? Because you still need to put that money up front.
Yes.
Right? The 5% is that we just had to save a certain amount of money. Okay, if I had to put up 20% anyway, this does not help me buy my first house.
Okay, so yeah, there's a few things that I don't actually know in terms of how this would work. For example, like, okay, the 25-year mortgages, right? 25 to 30-year mortgages.
Yeah.
If they're going to give Canadians this option, does this apply to all mortgages? That means that all banks can or they have to. Is there qualifying criteria?
CMHC insured mortgages.
Yes.
You can get 30%, 5% down.
Okay, CMHC insured mortgages can get 30-year, 5% down.
Yeah.
Got it.
Which right now is only 25 years.
But if it's a new build, you're saying that they need to do it like
That's
that.
how builders raise capital.
But then that also means that you can go on assignment. Like if you're buying a property that's on assignment from somebody that's a new build, you can get it like that.
Now that opens up a dump of real estate investors making money.
Yeah.
Because we had the 20 and you didn't. Basically, we're just lending you the 15%. We signed the paper. We did the deposit structure. And now you just pay a little bit more and I get that return.
Is that actually how that works?
Well, that's how you just explained it, right? Is that if you were to buy an assignment, that's how it would work. Is that I was able to do the 20%.
I'm pretty sure that for those that want to put 5% down or that do put 5% down, it'll come back to them. But basically, you're saying that this will mainly help Canadians who were going to be putting down 20% anyway, who are going to be putting down 20%. So if it's
I was able to save up enough money to buy a new home.
What they're mainly trying to do is they're trying to make the amortization period go from 25 years to 30 years. So they want to basically reduce the monthly payments, right? They want to reduce a serviceable debt.
You would say reduce monthly payments. I would say they want you to pay more interest.
If you buy a $750,000 property and you put 20% down, that's $150,000.
Mhm.
Okay. That monthly mortgage over the course of 25 years at 5.5% interest, even if let's just go at 5%, okay? Let's just go 5% interest. That's going to be $3,490. $3,490. Let's make that now, instead of 25 years, let's make that 30 years. 3,490 goes to 3,202. So that's a $300 difference.
Yeah, and then if you were to do the same math on how much interest more you're paying.
Oh yeah, no, that's gonna be crazy.
Right?
That's gonna be crazy.
But the whole thing, what I'm trying to say here, is it makes zero sense. This helps maybe, what you're saying, is this helps the guy that could already save up for a house, get a dump load of money when he closes. Okay? This doesn't actually help the frontline workers that are paying rent every month. This does not help. Okay? This is a grabbing headline.
Yeah.
That thinks your mortgages are going to be cheaper, and it's not.
Well, yeah.
Right? The fine print is always hidden behind these details, and that's what the liberals love to do.
Yeah.
Right? But it makes zero sense. It does not help anybody.
It is more affordable on the monthly basis. Like it is saving people on a $750,000 purchase $300 a month.
See, you keep on saying that, and all what I hear is it keeps you in debt longer.
It does keep you in debt longer, but if you really think about the average savings that Canadians are making every year, that probably adds up. But the thing is that I want to know what are some of the other things that he's putting into place to make it more affordable, because there's so many
You think it gets
downward.
better?
Well, I mean, there's so many downward pressures that are making things more unaffordable, like groceries going up, gas going up. Gas went up quite a bit, right? So that $300 that you're saving on your mortgage every month, or that has been, extended to become cheaper, that might be offset by gas prices, right? So you're paying less, $300 less on your mortgage
but you're
every
paying
month,
more in gas.
and you're paying more in gas.
This is just ridiculous.
It is, yeah.
Okay, so the first topic, I thought it just it only helps the people that can already buy their own home, that aren't struggling.
Yeah.
We agree?
Yeah, okay, agreed.
Second point, increasing the home buyer's plan to $60K. Okay? Right now, there's a deadline that you can use $35K of your RSPs towards buying your first home.
Okay.
Now, we're going to increase that to 60.
As in, so it becomes non-taxable.
Correct.
If you do that. Okay.
Correct. And then you have 15 years to pay it back.
All right, so that sounds pretty good.
That means you need to have 60,000 to be pretty good.
Yes. Okay.
Let's talk about buying a house in Brantford right now at $400,000.
Yeah.
You need 25 grand to close on that house.
Yes.
Okay? We're not even close to 60.
Yeah.
We're not even close to 60. Okay? We're not even touching 35. How does this help the frontline people that are working paycheck to paycheck buy a house?
Well,
because this is what we should be fighting for.
mhm.
We shouldn't be fighting for the guy that's eventually going to buy a house.
I'm going to argue with you here a little bit. And I think theoretically, and the question now comes into how financially savvy is somebody going to be? So if I had an RSP and I had to buy a house as not even a first-time home buyer, because this doesn't matter if you're a first-time home buyer, that $65,000
You have to be a
leverage,
first-time home buyer.
you have to be a first-time home buyer.
Yeah,
Okay,
to
so
use
let's
your
just
RSP.
say now I'm going to be a first-time home buyer, I want to buy this. I could, because the whole point of the RSP is that you want it to be non-taxable, right?
Correct.
I could use that as a down payment on the house. And even if I was going to put 5% down and I wasn't going to put all of that $65,000, I could still sink that money into the house to reduce my monthly payments. So instead of putting 5% down, I would put like 10% down, right?
Sure.
And then I could leverage the rest or pull out a line of credit on the home for the difference. So I could still have access to that money, and therefore that money is no longer taxable. But by moving the $65,000 RSP into the house, I've now transferred it without it being taxed. So it is acting as a pretty good tax shelter,
Yes.
right?
Yes. My argument, right, is great points. That's not my argument. My argument is, how do we help frontline workers and people that are struggling to buy a house, and in this economy will never buy a house, when we can have a budget right now that introduces laws, introduces grants to help the everyday working class? Well, you said it's great, but that means that, you have 60 grand, maybe I only put 40 in.
Yeah.
Maybe I keep 20.
Yeah.
Right? Those aren't the people that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
How does this budget, right,
Yeah.
help the next generation, the college grads? How does it help them buy a house?
I want to know, how much RSP does average Canadian have? At retirement, they have $144,000.
That's crazy, dude.
Yeah. That's what the average Canadian
That's
has, according to the
crazy.
census. Yeah. Halfway through their work life, if they're staying with a stable company, they're going to have about $50,000.
Okay, so
Yeah.
work life 25 years, so 12 years,
They're going to have about 50 grand.
That's when you can buy your first house.
There you go.
That's what we're saying?
Yeah. 12 years into your working life. Yeah.
Get out of here.
12 years into your working life, you're going to be in your mid-30s for a lot of people.
Does Trudeau not Google? Does he not use Google? That's nuts.
I think he's just trying to like hit every area.
Well, he's trying to grab headlines.
Yeah, and he's grabbing headlines. Okay, what's the next thing? I want to see if any one of these actually hits.
Boosting housing supply and construction workforce.
That's more false promise.
Okay, you know what? You know how big the promise is? Says that we need 2.5 million additional housing units need to be built by 2030.
Yeah.
Okay, 6 years. Okay, takes a couple years to build a house right now.
So basically, the plan lays out a bold strategy to unlock 3.87 million new homes by 2031. This includes a minimum of 2 million net new homes on top of the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation's forecast of 1.87 million being built by 2031. So yeah, they're saying that they want to outpace the requirement.
Yeah.
I have a lot of faith.
Yeah, that's a lot of houses.
Yeah.
You think about how many people live in Hamilton, let alone houses. I don't know the stat of single family homes, or if they're even saying is a house, a condo, or units. But there's 700,000 in Hamilton right now. So we're going to build 5-6 Hamiltons.
No,
in 6-7 years.
On top of that, when you really consider how expensive the housing is to construct, it's still going to be unaffordable for people to buy. And if we do continue with our immigration trajectories, it's going to get even crazier.
Just think about what's going to happen to the roads with that many. We're building that many houses, the roads.
Yeah.
The power grid, our wastewater treatment facilities. That's crazy.
We're addressing one problem, but it's going to cascade into another issue down the road, right? Right now, with the idea of building more housing, we're not actually addressing the fundamentals behind why it's not progressing to begin with, right? There's the Greenbelt issue. There's construction law issues. There's the bureaucracy behind it. Like when they measured up to see how much of the cost of constructing new homes was attributed to fees, government fees around building, it was astronomical. Right? And people think that these builders are all making bank, and it's like they're not really making bank compared to what the government is actually taxing.
Yeah, there are ROI on returns. They're not crazy.
No.
And they take forever. The people that are making money are the banks that are investing in these types of projects. That's because it just takes longer and longer and longer.
Yeah.
That's just making money. It is so hard to build housing in Hamilton right now. There's the huge topic in Hamilton was that there's these 2 parking lots at Stony Creek, downtown Stony Creek. Have you ever been to downtown Stony Creek? Probably a handful of times.
Yeah, sure.
You don't go there often. Most people don't go downtown Stony Creek that often. Okay, it's not a huge tourist, but there's lots of parking. And there's 2 parking lots, and they want to build affordable housing on this parking lot. Okay. Council says no. We're not.
All right.
We're not doing it. All city council votes, and it's a tie vote, 8-8. And it's the first time that our mayor used her strong mayor powers and says, you know what? We need affordable housing. We're going to turn these parking lots into towers.
Okay.
You know how many avenues she went through that we had to go through to get affordable housing on fucking parking lots, dude? Parking lots.
Yeah.
Right? You go look at all the encampments around. They're all in empty parking lots.
Mm-hmm.
You know what gets rid of the encampments? Just build houses where they are. Right?
Yeah.
Just build a tower where they are.
No, we are so behind in terms of being able to move and just get things done, and it's really bad. This is why you look at other countries and you can see them progressing quite quickly, right? Especially when we look at other places in Asia that are very up and coming, and it's largely because they do not have the bureaucratic and political nonsense and all the hoops that everybody has to jump through over here, and they don't do 1,000,001 studies to figure out that they can't do something. It's just a decision, like let's do it, yes or no, and they move forward with things. And I feel that if we were able to take a page from some of these other countries and the way that they're doing things right now, we would solve a lot of our problems pretty quickly.
There's a need.
Yeah, there is a need.
Fill the need.
So what's the next? What's the next thing?
Those are the big headlines right there.
I saw a few other things come up, like he's increasing payments into ODSP. They did a study over the course of a decade to analyze the people who were on ODSP. Right. And after that, they came to the conclusion that in order to take the people on ODSP out of poverty, they're going to be increasing the benefit to about 50% of them by about $200.
Yeah.
And they spent millions on this study in order to come to that conclusion.
Yeah.
Right? So they're putting money towards ODSP. They're also going to be putting money towards, they're taxing people who are making over $250,000. By the way, that one's making headlines, that capital gains taxes for people who are having capital gains over $250,000 are going to be at 60-something% now?
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, it's a higher tax bracket. Okay, great. What's interesting is that a lot of people are up in arms about it, but it doesn't affect that many Canadians. 0.16%
Yeah.
will declare over $250,000 in capital gain.
Yeah.
So that's who it
But
affects.
okay, so when you're saying that, what we're trying to do is it's all political, okay? Because why Justin Trudeau does that is because we tax the rich.
Yeah.
We tax the rich. We help out the poor with the things that we just talked about, which does not help the poor at all. Does not.
No.
Okay. But you're not taxing the rich either, right? Because you just said how many people are actually going to be affected by this capital gains tax.
Yeah, no, it's insignificant. It's so little, and these people are often business owners that are just going to take their business somewhere else.
It's a headline grab, tax the rich. It's all election bullshit. That's all it is.
It does seem like the disposition is always how to pull people who are up there down instead of figuring how to put people who are down up, right? And everything that is being implemented is literally pennies on the dollar compared to what is actually needed to solve the problems. And it's not even addressing the problems at the source. It's just band-aid solution to everything. The whole thing about increasing minimum wage, the whole thing about helping people who are on ODSP, which, I don't disagree with it, but it's not going to solve anything. And the whole thing about helping first-time home buyers when you're not really addressing the affordability issue of properties at the core. Like if you just went with simple, simple supply and demand principles, that would address it. If you make things more affordable and easier for builders to build and reduce the friction, you will have more houses. Right now, MLI Select is going crazy. People, well, not exactly going crazy, but real estate investors are turning to MLI Select programs to build purpose-built apartment units. We will have a lot more apartments being built for people to rent in the near future. And that's because of MLI Select. It's a great program that offers real estate investors a way to genuinely make money and have profits and not be stuck with their real estate investments. So, of course, we're going to have more apartments, but we're not going to have a lot of houses. So it's still going to be hard for people to buy homes.
Yep.
Where you live can drastically impact your financial situation. And this is a decision that Canadians are making at large, whether it's moving to other cities, whether it's moving to other provinces, and even moving to other countries. So today, Skylar and I are going to talk about this, how it impacts Canadians who are real estate investors and who are just trying to make a living, get by as well, and what we can do in order to adapt to these new evolving circumstances. Skylar, let's get into it.
It's definitely a fascinating topic because I talk about this with my friends all the time that are in the trades. Now, if you're an electrician and you live in Nova Scotia, you make almost the same amount of money in the Union than you would in Ontario. Your cost of housing is totally different.
Yeah.
Now, it is fascinating because for me, I need to work in a city for employment, right? I deal with tenants all day long, deal with landlords all day long. So I need a populated city to work in. Now we're seeing more remote work happening, though. LTB has been on Zoom ever since the pandemic. Now, after COVID, it's still on Zoom. It's crazy that if we were to live in a little city, somewhere else, maybe even outside of Ontario, how much different our lives would be.
We made a comment a little while ago on this announcement that Trudeau had made, where he was essentially comparing mortgages and rents, and he was quoting them at around $2,000 a month. And we were making a little bit of fun of it, and people were responding to the effect of, well, my mortgage is around $1,500, $2,000. And the truth is that, yeah, your mortgage might be that, but you're definitely not living in a heavily populated city, or you bought God knows when
long time ago.
that your mortgage is like that, right? So the majority of people who are buying properties today are not paying those type of mortgages, and the cost of living for them is quite high. So it's not just that they're benefiting from living in a place like that by getting higher paying jobs. They need to have those high paying jobs in order to survive.
Yeah, even in Hamilton, where we're talking right now, it's hard to work at Tim Hortons, but you can't buy a house, pay your mortgage working at Tim Hortons.
No,
right? You do need to have kind of a 6-figure job that does require most of the time some sort of diploma, some sort of degree. And a lot of these jobs, Tim Hortons, working at No Frills, working for Loblaws, these aren't homeowners. There's no path for this workforce to become homeowners, and nobody's trying to help out. The way you would say the lower class, but really, if you ask your parents, if I ask my parents, if you make $17 an hour, $18 an hour, that should be middle class. That shouldn't be low class going to a food bank.
well, if you ask those people, that is a different generation. People are stuck in old numbers.
Yeah, but $17, $18 an hour, even if you talk about going down to the States and what the minimum wage is in some of the southern states in Georgia, in Louisiana what the minimum wage is.
Yeah, okay, and that's the thing that makes it very questionable is because we are actually we're not too far away. We're in pretty close proximity to other places and other options that offer a lot more options
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to the quality of life aspects, right? Like that type of salary will go much further in the US than it will in Canada.
Yes.
All right, and for many people, a lot of Canadians who are able to live in the US and work certain Canadian jobs are doing very well in the US.
If you can work remote for a Canadian company and you live remote in the US, nowhere near your job, your quality of life is amazing.
Yeah.
I see it all the time on my TikTok, and I don't know how my TikTok works, but I see Texas comes up all the time on my TikTok saying that this is what you can buy for $400,000
Yeah.
outside of Austin, Texas.
Yep.
And it's crazy.
It's like night and day, and that's why a lot of people are considering making a move to other places, and this is why there's a lot of uncertainty as to people's futures in Canada. I want to bring our attention very quickly to this one article that came out. It was about a lady who was in Kitchener, right? When she
Mhm.
moved out to Alberta, she was making like 80 odd $1,000 a year with her husband, who was working another job, comparable salary. They got a house that was in and around like $700 or $800,000, and they were paycheck to paycheck all the time. She was working a good job and she had to get extra jobs in order to be able to afford to care not just for her kids, but also to care for her family, right? Like her parents and
Yeah.
the in-laws and other such things, because everybody needs a little help. Now that's challenging for her, and what she did was she made a decision to move to Alberta, and by doing so, she got a comparable job. Her husband works a remote job, so he was okay,
Mm-hmm.
and they are mortgage free.
Crazy.
That's
That's the dream.
That's a dream.
That's the
right?
Ontario dream.
Now, to that point, what's the difference if somebody decides to move to, let's say, I don't know, like Nova Scotia, Halifax, right? Or any of those other places? Like, they're obviously not going to be as densely populated or have the same type of cities that you may be
Mhm.
used to if you're in BC or if you're in Ontario. But is your quality of life going to be better if you have more financial liberties?
The answer's easy. It's yes.
I
You-
think so, yeah.
Now, when you think about this and you think about living, wherever your dream place in Canada to live, maybe it's in Alberta and you like the mountains, you like that. Maybe it's the East Coast because you like the ocean, right? PEI is beautiful. We have a new luxury in Canada that the States has had for a long time, and that's no frills, low budget airlines.
Mm.
Okay, where you can fly from New York to Miami on economy $350.
Yeah.
Right, $700 round trip, but that's a far flight, right? We're going cross country. We have been starting to see airlines, and they do tend to go bankrupt and go out of business, but we do see Flair right now is they're holding strong, and you can get a flight in certain times of year from Hamilton to PEI, and you pay $200, $300, right? So it is affordable to come back, because when you ask me the question, is my quality of life going to change if I move to PEI?
Yeah.
Yes, for the greater good. The only thing that would suck is my family.
Yeah, and that's what holds actually most people back.
Yes.
There were surveys on that where asking people what is it that's keeping them here,
Yes.
and everybody across the board answered family.
Yes, but if you can give me a cheap airline ticket where I can fly with my mom or dad, only going to cost them $1,000 for a
Yeah.
round trip for two people, sounds like now there's nothing holding me back.
Yeah, especially when your costs can be astronomically cheaper. Like, by the way, like when people buy a house today, if you're buying a $750,000, $800,000 home, your mortgage is in and around $4,000 to $5,000.
Yeah.
Right, a month, right? Not including other utilities, taxes, insurance, right? So people are needing to rock like $5,000, $6,000. If you're doing $7,000, $8,000 a month in salary,
Yeah.
right, which is like you're pushing $100,000 a year, like that's gonna barely cut it.
A lot of people can do that for a short term amount of time.
Mhm.
Okay, they can live paycheck to paycheck just by getting by paying the mortgage. But you're signing that mortgage for 25 years.
Mhm.
That's a long time to live paycheck to
Yeah.
paycheck just to pay the mortgage, just to have that dream one day of, the big dream was retirement and the house paid off.
Yeah.
That's a long time of your life living paycheck to paycheck.
Exactly, and then if you have this idea that you went and get out of the supposed rat race, whatever that rat race is to you, how are you supposed to even do that if you have so many downward factors opposing you, right?
Yeah.
So you have family that's keeping you grounded, keeping you where it is that you want to or need to live. Like, let's say if
Mhm.
you're in Toronto, you're paying astronomical rents, you're paying astronomical mortgage, but you know where you're going to move to.
Yeah.
And some people will pick up and make that move to, let's say, St. Catharines, and they cut their bills into half, more
Mhm.
than half actually, in some cases. If you do that, yeah, you're going to be able to start putting away. Like, think about it. Somebody was going to have $5,000 mortgage a month. versus now $2,000 or $2,500 mortgage a month by buying a property that's like around the $500,000 price point. That's $25,000 a year that you're able to bank, and that's a lot of money. You can do a lot with. That's a car every year.
Yes, that's instead of going camping for your vacation, you're going to Mexico.
Yeah.
Right? When you talk about quality of life, when you have 4 weeks vacation, right? Instead of going camping, you're going to Mexico.
But now let's see. But let's talk about people who actually have to go to work, because there are some people who are fortunate enough to have remote work, right? And I think people who have remote work should really take advantage of that. Like honestly, if you can, like people should really consider how often do you go and see your family or your friends? How often do you do it? If you do it once a week, you can really decide now if or not. And most people don't see their family once a week. Like how often do you go visit the in-laws, kind of thing, right?
Plead the fifth.
There you go, right? But in some cases, people will see them maybe like 2 times a month or something like that. Some people don't see them at all, only during special occasions. Now, that is the case, really. Like, if you live someplace cheaper and you don't have to commute to work, because it's the drive. Like, driving from Toronto to other place in Toronto is.
Yeah, you always say that,
Yeah, I know. I freaking hate it, right? So imagine, I know people who have to drive from St. Catharines all the way to Toronto, and I don't know how they mentally tolerate doing that every freaking day.
Yeah, but that's the type of person that wants to not go camping, wants to go to Mexico.
Yes. Okay. And that's the thing. And some of those people actually make genuine sacrifices, right?
Yeah.
There's some people that you have to respect this move. They take their family, they move to St. Catharines, not because it's convenient for for the guy to go to work, because he wants to make sure that his kids have a home that they own, that he can provide a future, and that's quite a commitment.
Yep.
Right. And you have to decide now: do I want to, in order to make this money, go work 4 extra hours of overtime, or I'll spend 4 hours driving in order to have an investment in a property that I own?
Yeah.
And then how far are you willing to drive? 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours?
Yeah. Do you ever see the cities that are giving out plots of land for $1? If you come and build a house, put a house on this land, we'll give it to you for $1. Cochrane, Ontario is recently doing it.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing, is that you come up here, we know what we have to offer. We have I've been to Cochrane. We have a great little town. It's missing people. That helps the economy. And we know that if we could bring 1,000 people up here, this is going to be an amazing place to live.
Yes, they're trying to encourage residents, though, not development. Like, we couldn't go up there and buy some land for $1 and
not to make profit.
Okay, so we're not going up there to build rentals.
We're not going up there to build rentals. You're going up there to take your family, because you work remote, and you can live in this great community in a brand new house, for quarter of what you're paying outside of Toronto in the GTA.
And if you think about it, if somebody wants to go up there and build, let's just say as an example, they want to go there and build a 1,500 square foot home. You have 1,500 square feet, and you want to build that at, let's just say, $175 a square foot. That's $262,000.
Yeah.
$262,000. If you go and buy a plot of land up there and you build a house for $262,000 up there, $250,000 is going to be some people's down payment for
that's
a crappy house.
That's 25% on $1 million house.
Yeah, exactly. So it is definitely incentivizing, and for some people who have those liberties, it's obviously going to be night and day in terms of the financial outlook. Right? Imagine putting $250,000 on a house in Toronto, and now you have to service a mortgage of, let's say, $1 million or $1.2 million if you're buying a $1.5 million home.
Yeah.
Right? Now that's like, what are we looking at? We're looking at something like $7,000 mortgage. So you have $7,000 in debt, and then $7,000 a month that you have to pay out. But if you go to Cochrane, not necessarily. Why would you not go to Cochrane? Because I feel like we need to address that.
Why wouldn't we go?
Why wouldn't you? Like, why don't you go to Cochrane?
My wife's job is also just like my job, where I need to be in the city. Right? I don't have the liberties of working full-time remote. Maybe I could do a couple days a week, but I do need to be in the city in Hamilton. It is a thing that if, maybe I could, if I was fully remote, sure, I'm going, maybe not to Cochrane, maybe I'm going out east. Then I think that living on the ocean that's the dream. Yeah. Instead of living up north.
Cochrane has a river. But yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, you want to live on the ocean, yes. But yeah, if you can live remote, and if I worked remote, I would probably take up one of these offers. PI Nova Scotia, I don't think they have any offers right now for $1 land, but yeah, definitely be something that I would jump on.
Yeah.
Even as a summer home, maybe.
people have these decisions to make in their lives where you live, right? And where you choose to live is going to be your greatest financial, I don't want to say burden, but greatest financial expense. You're either paying rent or you're paying your mortgage,
Yep.
or you're occupying a space that could otherwise be income
Yep.
if you are, let's say, house hacking, right? So you have to make that decision. And the reason why people choose to live where they live has to do with primarily work and family, and that is what they have to contend with. Which is why even for like some of the stuff that we're doing, we're seeing a lot of people, even investors, start to invest in the States.
Yeah.
Because properties are more, I want to say, sensibly priced, and even rents are reasonable, sustainable.
Mm-hmm.
They still have a way to grow. And when people are looking at other markets and they see them as being better, they are weighing in the pros and cons. Now, a lot of Canadians don't like the idea of going to live in certain states, and that has to do with a lack of certain amenities and laws, like guns, like
Yeah. Stuff we're not
healthcare.
used to. Stuff
Yeah,
we're not used to.
stuff we're not used to, right? But for those who are able to, get around those things at least mentally, or just find a workaround, there's a lot of people making those moves. And why are they doing it?
Now, let me ask you this question: if you were to start your real estate journey all over again from today, today was day one of Andrew's real estate journey. What are you buying? Where are you investing?
It would be in Cleveland.
Yes.
It would be in the States. But that also follows my investment philosophy even from back in the day.
Okay.
Right? Like the whole reason why I started in Hamilton was because Hamilton was a cheaper option.
Yeah.
And when a city like this, it has to have the right bones.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting when you go to places like Cleveland. Cleveland has good bones.
Mm-hmm.
As a city, it has infrastructure. It has everything that you need for the people to grow into it.
Mm-hmm.
For another company to come in and just really take the place off.
Yeah.
So if it has all that stuff, it can only go up.
Yeah.
Right now the U.S. has a bit more of a volatile market.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're buying property that is relatively speaking cheap to begin with or affordable, like you can pick up properties for $100,000, $150,000. It doesn't matter how much cheaper is it really going to get, right? We're looking at a 10-unit building over there, $500,000.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Like, you don't hear about that
Yeah,
stuff
you can't buy
anywhere.
a single family home.
No, there's no way, right? You're gonna get 10 units. That's a lot of stability. That's good rental income and a lot of versatility.
Yeah.
And you can leverage the building, right? There's so many great options over there. So yeah, I would definitely be looking over there.
Mhm.
But a lot of investors, mom and pop investors especially, they want to live within proximity to their investments. They want to be able to touch it. Actually, that's also a reason why Cleveland is pretty good, because you can drive all the way over there, right?
Do a weekend.
Exactly. And be in tune with what's going on at your property. If you want to manage your own property, you could technically do that as a Canadian.
Yes. Sometimes that drive that you mentioned from St. Catharines to Toronto, how you can't realize how people do it. Sometimes the same amount of time for us to drive to Cleveland, at the same time to drive to St. Catharines to Toronto.
Yeah, actually, that's funny. Yeah, it is about the same time, and it's more stressful of a drive from St. Catharines to Toronto, especially when you get stuck in Toronto versus Cleveland.
Yes.
At least Cleveland, they've got big highways, roads are open. Seems like an easy drive.
Knowing that remote work is a possibility, what would you study in school now? Because when you go to school and become a plumber, electrician, you have to be there.
For my own circumstance, I do always believe that the best way to go in life is to lean on or leverage your family resource, whatever that is. If your family's in real estate and you're able to also get into real estate, you're doubling down on previous generation work. So if my family has been in real estate and I'm getting into real estate, and then my kids, let's say, get into real estate, my mentality and what I would teach around it might be a little bit different. But let's just say that if you wanted to have let's just say a standard comfortable life, and you wanted to get like a job.
Yeah, I just want to touch on what you just said there, just with like the family business, that like your grandpa, your dad, this and that. I just hope that if that was me, my dad's not Mike Tyson, because that means that I gotta fight this guy. And then my kid, because I'm Mike Tyson, I mean you gotta be Mike Tyson.
Yeah. No. It's not like that. Okay, so my philosophy to it all is this: like, work aside, if I have to go and work somewhere, and let's say I have to physically be present, I would always rent. I would always want to rent where it is that I work.
Yeah, it's Grant Cardone thing.
Yeah, like I personally don't really like to live where I own for a few reasons. One, I feel like your personal residence is a considerably bigger liability than it is an asset. So I don't like the idea of doing that. And also, you start seeing all these articles today about these millionaire tenants, right? Where homeowners have sold their homes and are now renting, and they're investing in another property, and that's become more common. Why? Because it is cheaper to rent a place than it is to own a place today, right? And that's starting to get pushed. We know rental prices are going up, so it's a little bit different. So if I had to choose, I would still lean towards, especially in Canada, a trade, right? Like my brother's kids, my
Yeah.
brother's son is going into becoming an electrician.
Mm-hmm.
Great, right?
Yeah.
High job security, high demand. There's definitely a need from them. Canada wants to build housing that they're not even going to get to, but they're definitely going to need people to do it. So it's going to be a high in demand trade. The thing I don't like about remote work is that you are always and you're going to be in jeopardy of losing your job to another country.
Yeah.
Like for people who right now are doing a certain medical work remotely, I do worry about it because these people their jobs can be outsourced to countries in Asia.
Yeah.
Right, where they are leaps and bounds ahead of us when it comes to the research, the technology, and their processes.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a trusting issue there, but that's different.
The issue there is that Canadian jobs never want to be taken away, and the government definitely doesn't want to lose any Canadian job. And if you're the medical company, if you're the owner of the medical company, then all of a sudden you say, "Hey, I'm laying everybody off, and I'm moving everybody. Everybody's going to work remote from the Philippines, and they're going to be Filipino workers."
Yeah.
You're going to be the one that lose all those government contracts right away.
Yes.
Right? Canadians do frown upon that sort of stuff, even though it makes total sense.
Yeah.
Makes total sense. A big company, it would be hard to do that. Yes.
That's when you're on government contracts, but a lot of these companies that are servicing other companies are not going to necessarily lose their contracts.
It's the same thing where it's like you buy a Honda car because the Honda's made here versus another car that's made. You know what I mean? There's more people Canadians are always going to be that, Americans too, that are always going to want to buy that Honda car that was made here.
Yeah, you think so? I mean, honestly, I do hope that mentality sticks because that would actually, that goes to support the economy. I'm all about that. But to answer the initial question of what type of education would I get, with that outlook, I may have not leaned towards going to something that you have to do some work in person, like nursing, construction, other such things where you have to be present. It definitely offers you a lot more versatility if you really do consider the fact that you can even rent in another city that is going to be considerably cheaper and do remote work. I think you're going to be financially ahead in a shorter period of time for sure, especially if you take those savings and invest your money into
and quality of life, right?
Yeah.
Instead of moving to a city, you move into a town.
By the way, it depends what type of person you are too. Like, do you like to go out? Do you like going to clubs? Did you ever like going to clubs? Okay,
yes. One time I was a young buck and like going to clubs.
Yeah, okay. So, quality of life for some people means they want that hustle bustle. They want to be able to go out, see other people that are dressed nicely, see other people that look like they're going places, doing something with their life. People from small towns, you hear them complain about all the time. It's like the only thing to do here is go to Walmart and the mall.
Yeah, and to certain people that sounds good.
That sounds,
yeah,
sounds
because
peaceful.
me when I'm 19 doesn't sound good. Me when I'm 30 sounds good.
Yeah, exactly. So there's people who like to have choices and variety, and there's people who are just like, there's too many options.
Yeah.
I just want a meal.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Give me food.
Yeah, there is people that actually want to live in Toronto.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So, depending on what type of person you are, but ultimately the answer is that strictly from a financial perspective, that living in a bigger place like Toronto is going to cost you hugely, and you have to decide what is keeping you there and why it's keeping you there. Right? If it's job, okay. You have your job for money. Assume that it's not a career. Assume it's a job.
Yeah.
Right? Put it on the spreadsheet. Will you be in a similar or better position if you got a lower paying job in a smaller town?
Yes. Are you
Probably.
Are you getting paid more just because the job's in Toronto?
Exactly. By the way, one of my buddy who is an electrician in Toronto, he earns about $8,000 or $9,000 a month as an electrician. He's not a master electrician yet, but he's working with a big company.
And he's not even a master electrician yet.
No, he's making $8,000 or
$9,000.
$9,000.
On your buddy.
No. You know what? They're in high demand.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Doing commercial contracts. Right. He could get a job in St. Catharines with another company who was offer it. It would pay him about $7,500 a month. But when you offset his cost of living on places like that, he would actually be up. He would be able to own a home where he doesn't own a home in Toronto, but he would be able to own a home in St. Catharines.
Yeah.
Right. So his financial position would be for sure better, but his family is on Toronto, so he's not leaving. So the remote work is potentially good, but I do worry about the stability of remote work. I think remote work is going to be taken away from a lot of Canadians sooner or later. And companies also don't like remote work because it is tanking real estate values. Commercial real estate right now is hurting in some areas, and the guys who own it don't like it. So they're going to start making use of those buildings. When those people aren't commuting to work, businesses suffer. Nobody else is going to those local coffee shops. People are not going to going out for lunch at the restaurants. This is problematic. Right. So I don't think that this is going to last. I feel like the remote work is short-lived.
or it all goes to the Philippines slowly,
Yeah.
like you said.
Exactly, right? So how do Canadians set themselves apart? Like the remote work thing, for me is always like a touchy issue because like people are treating it like it should be a new norm, and some people talk about how they're more productive working remotely. But then you have people who come into a workplace and say that I want to work remote right from the get go, and I think that remote work, in all honesty, has to be earned.
And for people to say that they work harder at home, that's definitely not me, right? I don't see how it is because you wake up in your pajamas. Do you sleep in a little bit longer? I do when I work from home. Why would I wake up as early?
Yeah,
I don't have to drive to work. Do I need to get my coffee in before I start my shift? No, I can have my coffee while I'm working,
yeah.
right? So, I don't believe that either.
So if you're with a company where you've earned it, I think it's not a bad idea for you to move a little bit further away. But certain jobs have security measures when it comes to that. Like they will not let you move to the Philippines and work remotely.
Yes, but it's also one of those things that it's dangerous because people get comfortable with remote work. And we've been seeing that a lot where companies are saying, you got to come back in. Maybe we do the hybrid model where you got to come in Mondays and Fridays. It's like, no, I don't want to come in. I'm remote now.
Yeah.
I live in my cottage.
Yeah.
It's a hard thing to get back on track
Mm-hmm.
and get back in the office. Full circle here of cost of living and quality of life. I think there will always be jobs that are remote, right? An accountant, you can start your own firm. You can be a remote accountant. There's other jobs like that. And if you want that quality of life and you want to live in PEI, because there's not many jobs in PEI unless you live in Charlottetown, and then you just live in another city,
Mm-hmm.
right? Maybe the city's on the ocean, but it's just another city.
Yeah.
So you have to make those decisions. And coming out of college or university or going into college or university, if you want that remote job, then you can think about maybe you don't want to be that electrician that makes $89,000, but it has to live downtown Toronto, commute to Toronto.
If you're young and you're making these decisions and thinking about it, it's a little bit hard to have the perspective of what type of person you are and what you want out of life, the work-life balance
Yeah.
situation that you want to see later, what it is you like. Right?
Mhm.
It's hard to make that decision. But to have the foresight that is an option and you can do those things is going to be definitely beneficial in terms of like picturing how you want your life to be. A lot of people, they have a very clear idea. I want to own a place out in the country, white picket fence. I want to have kids, and I want to be able to work remotely and have a cup of coffee and look at my nice big lawn while
Yeah.
I'm working. Right? For some people, that's it. Other people want to have that New York noise of the train going on, right? Like and hear the tracks going, and every now and then hear a horn honking. And if you want to live in a place like that, I can't imagine why you want to work remote and live in Toronto. Part of it is like getting out, walking around. You have people in suits walking around, going into these tall buildings with all the glass. Like I feel like that's kind of it.
You really love $11 lattes.
I think we should just do a little bit of math, like just for context, right? Average one bedroom rent in Toronto ranges now $24 all the way up to $3,200 for some one bedrooms, depending on where you're renting. Average one bedrooms in Hamilton are right now at $1,800, and then average one bedrooms in St. Catharines are in and around like $1,400. It's a considerable difference, right? It's literally twice as much in a place like Toronto than St. Catharines. If you lived in St. Catharines, are you going to be making half as much money? Chances are probably not.
Yeah.
Right. So your saving power is going to be considerably high. If you have an extra, let's just say $1,500 a month that you're able to put aside, that's going to, let's just say $2,000 a month for easy numbers, and you're going to have $24,000 a year that you can put aside. That's quite a bit of money now that you can invest. Right. People are trying to figure out how do I come up with a down payment. If you're able to save $20,000 a year, 5 years, you have like a down payment on the house.
Yeah, nice house.
Yeah, you can buy a pretty decent house.
Yep.
Right? 5% down, $100,000, you're good. So I think where we can wrap this up, though, is that if you are looking to save money, invest, and you need to decide where it is that you want to see yourself living over the next few years relative to your work and relative to your family, you really need to contextualize it and see, does it make sense for me to be living where I'm living? And financially, what is it different? How is it different from if I lived in a place like Toronto, or if you're living in BC, you might be living in Victoria or something? And should I go and maybe move to Surrey, or should I live in a place like Brantford or something like that, or move further away east, somewhere outside of the GTA where things are more affordable? What type of an impact will this make on me financially? And what type of an impact will this make on me in terms of time, my commitment to either driving through traffic or if I have to drive to visit family? How much more time is that going to be? And is it worth it?